Good morning, children. Are you all ready to learn more about analytical paragraph? So, here is the structure and tips of how to write this paragraph. Children, here is the structure of analytical paragraph. Firstly, it should be topic sentence, then the introduction of the evidence, then the evidence, then analysis, then transition, then repeat steps B and D. B and D here means the introduction of evidence and analysis. You should have it at least two solid examples to support your topic sentence and then concluding sentence. Here are some useful tips for writing an analytical paragraph. I told you first you have to write the introduction. So for an introduction, you can start with the following phrases. You can use these phrases to start the introduction. First one, if chart has been given, you can start like this. The chart given above describes. If the table has been given, the second point, the table suggests. If graph has been shown, so the line graph shows. If data has been given, the data given provides information about. If pie chart has been given, you have to start like this. The pie chart illustrates, etc. In this way, you can start the introduction of the analytical paragraph. Now for describing trends, you can use the phrases and words like a pattern of growth, rapidly doubled, skyrocket, striking increase, peaked, soaring rates, declined, plummeted, leveled off, stagnated, fluctuate, starting to rise, starting to fall, drop down slightly, etc. These phrases and words you can use while describing the trends. The second point, the body of the paragraph. This part of the analytical paragraph should contain detail of the graph chart given in the question. It should contain all the important information. It is extremely important to choose the significant details that should be included in the paragraph. The body can be broken into 2 or 3 sub-paragraphs depending on the information extracted from the graph. Breaking the body into sub-paragraphs makes it easy for the reader to understand. If you want to describe the quantities, then use various styles like 48% off, 1/3 off, nearly 1/4 off, almost 80%, majority, on average, twice as much, almost equal, the highest, the lowest, very close to 2%, roughly, approximately 5% off, just under 3%, etc. In this way, you can write the quantities. Paragraph. Now for establishing a relationship or contrast. How to make the contrast? You can use these lines. You can use phrases and words like relationship between. Similarly, in contrast with, in comparison to, but in the opposite case, however, whereas, when it comes to, opposed to, while, striking difference noticeable. As these you can use if you are going to make a contrast. Here for comparing, if you want to compare the information, how you're going to compare, you can use these phrases or words. If the chart mentions 2 different parties, if the chart mentions 2 different parties, for example, men and women, refer to both of them in the analytical paragraph. If there is any contrast or comparison that could be drawn, you must present it effectively. If the chart is about a particular time period or highlights the trends of several years, mention each year in a concise manner. Mention each year. Okay? If any comparison or contrast can be done for 2 or more years, you should write about it too. Children, here you can have a look at the example of analytical paragraph. It's about a graph. First introduction. The graph shows changes in birth and death rate that has been shown through the graph. In New Zealand since 1901 it has been mentioned, and forecast until 2101. Now in the body paragraph 1, what you are going to write: between 1901 and the present day, that is the day that is going on, the birth rate has been constantly higher than the death rate. You have to observe that from the graph and then you have to write. It stood at 20,000 at the start of this period and increased to a peak of 66,000 in 1961. Since then, the rate has fluctuated between 65 to 50,000, and it is expected to decline slowly to around 45,000 births by the end of the century. You have to observe everything from the graph and then you have to write down. And here is the conclusion of that graph. Conclusion: overall, these opposing trends mean that the death rate will probably overtake the birth rate in around 2041, and the large gap between the two levels will be reversed in the later part of this century. You can just have a look. We have started with overall. That means this is the conclusion we are going to make after studying this graph. This is your analytical paragraph. Children, I think this topic, analytical paragraph, is clear to you. Now you're able to do it, but do it carefully. In case of any doubt, you can contact me. Thank you. Have a nice day.